Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our daily word this morning. Glad you could join me for our time together and our ongoing continued journey through Scripture and our daily word. I always appreciate you carving out time to be with me and for offering me your greetings whenever it is that you watch. So today is daily word number 696 as we continue together. Tonight is our Lent Wednesday night. Hope you're planning to join us for our time together. We have dinner at 6. We're having breakfast casserole. I just got it all completed. It's in the refrigerator waiting to go in the oven for later. And it looks really good, in my opinion. So hopefully you'll join us for that. And then we'll begin our study following that, meeting Jesus around the table. Tonight we're going to talk about Jesus feeding the large crowd of people and what that means for us and about always having enough. So hopefully you'll join us for that. So this morning our scripture is from Deuteronomy chapter 6 verses 5 through 9, and we hear these words. These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the door frames of your houses and on your gates. So, the great commandment, of course, in the Old Testament and the New Testament is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. And that's found just preceding this in verse 4, when Moses offers these words. And the verses that follow, so if we were to take verse 4 and just to separate it, we might think it's something we just do on a limited basis. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. But these verses that follow that teach us that this isn't some abstract thing that we simply carry around with us and once in a while pull out of our tool belt and decide to use. It's really a theoretical command. It's a practical order that we're given. The truth of the matter is, as the scripture is spoken to us, is that we cannot love the Lord your God with your entire heart, mind, and soul only on Sunday morning, or only when people are watching, or only when it's convenient, or with people that we like and are like us, or even when we understand why and it feels easy and we like doing it. These are not compartmentalized commands that we can just take off and on. The love of God isn't meant to be for the back burner. Now, I agree with you that it's probably a difficult and complicated endeavor. We get frustrated at times by the life we have. We get frustrated at times, I think, from what God asks of us, when we don't understand what God's doing in our lives. Times when we just flat out don't want to do it. Times when we get distracted by, all the false promises that are out there. The joy of these momentary experiences. And unfortunately, I think for us, we turn these commands to write them on our hearts as situational kind of things, if you will. But this scripture reminds us that we're called to take this to a deeper level, that we're supposed to talk about these things, that we should let them swim around in our heads, in our hearts, in our souls, on our spirits. We should let them be in our heads when we lay down and close our eyes for sleep. And then when we blink to a new day, we should, as the scripture says, mark our houses with it, to be identified that we follow this command to love God with all that we have, and that this is an inseparable command from God. When we sit, when we rise, when we go, when we stay, God is always God, and God's ways are always best for us. Now, the good news is for us that in the difficulty of this and where it's the most troubling, there is God. And Moses reminds us that we're not left to ourselves. That the God who gave these commands is the God who follows with us, who guides us, who leads us, who sustains us. What God's doing in the world is ahead of us and helping us pave the way for love, to share love with others, and gives us the words to say and the actions to take. You know, sometimes I think we, and maybe I do as well, even in this day, that we get caught up in the what we're supposed to do kind of thing, and sometimes forget what it is that God's doing in our midst. And what God's doing is filling us with this capacity, with this ability, with this sense of here's what we can accomplish. And then gives us, you know, this courage to carry it out. So it's interesting that this command to love God isn't just for when we're gathered. It's importantly for when we're scattered. When we go to bed and when we get up, and it should be always on our hearts. We tie them as symbols on our hands, bind them on our foreheads. It's supposed to be a constant reminder. So for us, maybe that constant reminder, if we don't do those things, if it doesn't make sense to bind them on our forehead, that then these things, this love of God, is at the front of who we are. And if God's leading us and God's guiding us and God's paving the way, and then that love is at the forefront of how we act, then we can carry it out. And then it makes a difference in the world. And I hope you and I could find ways in our lives to just do that. And know that God strengthens us and guides us and supports us and sustains us all along the way. So, thanks for joining me today. Thanks for always being with me in our journey together. Hope I'll see you tonight at 6 o'clock and then again tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Know of God's love that surrounds you. Know of my love for you. And have a great day.